3 degrees outside, 20 degrees inside. Not terrible for late January. Getting a little bit of sun anyway. Still have a bit of snow anyway. But it's a nice mild day. It's well above freezing. 3 degrees right now. Still need to have a fire going though. One thing I've been meaning to do is check on these batteries over here. These aren't the batteries that are hooked up to the camper. They're just spare batteries. And you can kind of see right now I just have these 3 panels, each one individually hooked to a battery. I don't have the batteries hooked up in series or anything like that. They're just all separate right now. Each 40-watt panel is, well, you can see it's just a cheap charge controller that came with each panel. It's just a Coleman 7 amp, I think. Yeah, but you can see this one is lit up yellow and red. So I'm going to do a little check here to even see if that charge controller is even working. I think it's going to be hard to see in the daylight, but this little, it's a little green light came with the solar panels. And each one of them came separately, so I'm pretty sure there are 3 of these, but right now I only have 1 that I can find. But if I plug this into this cord here coming off the solar panel directly, it should light up, which means everything's working and it's putting out power. I don't know if you can see. You can see that it's bright out here, but you can see that that lit up. So that panel is putting out power. You see when there's no light. I just unplugged it. So I'm going to do that with each cord coming off the solar panels and just check them all. That one's lit up. That one's good. Last one. And that one's lit up too. So all of the panels are working and putting out power. So now it's time to check the charge controllers that you can see are pretty weathered. That one's the oldest one. So we'll see if those are working by using the same method. So this is the oldest charge controller, excuse me, and it's been sitting there. I mean, it's had snow on top of it and everything else. But I just hooked up this little light and you can kind of see it's just a very low light. So I'm kind of thinking that this charge controller is on its way out. I'm going to try the other ones though and see if you can notice a difference. I mean, you can see that there's a little bit of light there, but it's not nearly as bright as it was when I plugged in the solar panels. I'm going to try this charge controller next. This is the only one out of all of them that's actually lit up green, meaning the battery should be fully charged, but it's also been out in the elements. And you can see this thing comes right off. So they have all seen better days, really. So I plugged this one in to my little light here, and it's flashing, which kind of, I guess, might mean this one's on its way out too. But I totally understand. I mean, they've been out here all winter just getting wet and in the freezing cold, and they're just cheap charge controllers. So this last charge controller is lit up, if you can see, red and yellow. Not sure what that means, but this is the last one I'm going to test out here. Well, that one lights up solid, bright. So that one seemed to be the best out of all of them. I'm not sure why it's lit up red, which means low voltage, and yellow meaning charging, unless I check these batteries and this one is really low. Let's do that next. Just want to throw in too, I know that these charge controllers have a short shelf life, basically. They're just cheap charge controllers. I just have them on here because right now they're outside and it's exposed, and I didn't want to put an expensive MPPT charge controller on the outside, you know, spare batteries. I do have an MPPT charge controller. It's inside the trailer, and that's what these batteries here are hooked to. These are the 3 batteries that are hooked up to the camper. So since there's no charge controller with display on the spare batteries, I just have this thing here. It has your positive and negative clips, and then this is basically like a 12-volt plug. So I'm going to plug this thing into that and get a reading of my batteries once I clamp this onto the batteries. Okay, so I'm trying out the battery on the end with the very tired looking charge controller that was giving me a really dim light. So this is on positive, you can see here. This one's on negative, and now I just have to plug this thing in. I don't know, can you see that? 12.77 volts. That's pretty good. It says right there. Good. So maybe that charge controller does work, or maybe it's just because the battery just hasn't been used in so long. But that one's good. Let's go to the next. Okay, now we're hooked onto the battery that had the charge controller that's lit up green like it's fully charged, but it was giving me a flashing green light. And maybe that's actually what that green light, the flashing green light meant, was that it was fully charged. I have no idea. But getting a reading of 13.37 volts, which is really good. Last but not least, we're attached to the battery on the end. That was giving 14 point, oh, there we go, 14 point, it's jumping around. I might not have it plugged in good enough. But over 14 volts, which is really good, better than the rest of them, really. And this is the one that is lighting up red and yellow. So maybe they are still working. I'm kind of confused about the whole thing. But all the batteries are good so far. I mean, nothing's been low. And these are all just sitting here on trickle charge. I'm not using them, so I guess they can't really go low on me. Just in case, I went ahead and bought just this little cheap solar charge controller online. It's a 20 amp, because I plan on hooking all of these together. All 3 solar panels with all 3 batteries. So I also went ahead and got this 5-way. So you can see it has the same plugs on the end that these solar panels have. So, and then I'll just have to find a plug, I guess like this one, for the end of this new charge controller, and hook them all together and just run them off one charge controller rather than having 3. And I'll connect the batteries all together at some point here. But yeah, this one does have room for a 4th panel, one of these small 40-watt panels. And I think I'm going to get one anyway, because like I said, I want to put 4 of them together and make kind of an overhang over the bedroom door at the far end of the trailer. When I do get it hooked up though, I'll probably put this in something so it's not going to be sitting in the snow or the rain. In a case of some sort, or maybe I'll just even have it installed on the inside of this thing here to keep it out of the elements. But yeah, so I'll be doing that switch out at some point here. So I guess everything's good with the spare panels and the spare batteries, but I'll do another video once I get those all hooked up together and get them all put up on the one solar charge controller. So all the snow is gone off the front side of the roof, but on the back side we have all this snow just kind of lingering around and curling over because the sun doesn't really hit this side. Just came in the woodshed to grab a couple sticks of wood, and as you can see, it's half empty now. So I think I've been burning wood since September, October. So half of this woodshed got us through, I guess, 3 months. So hopefully this other half will last the next 3 months, because I don't want to run into the same problem as last year and run out and then have to basically pick up free pallets, the untreated wood pallets, of course, and burn those, cut those up and burn those. But yeah, getting kind of low. We're back into the tent shed part, so less than half actually. If that does go empty though, I did pile some wood under the catio here, so there is some extra if times get desperate. I think it should be okay though. I want to give you an update on my fridge too. I was worried after the first few days that I had this thing hooked back up, because a few days later everything in the fridge froze. Like froze solid, even the milk. And I got a little worried, and I thought I would have to call the guys who fixed it and let them know they turned my fridge into a freezer. But it was actually user error, because the fridge before it was fixed, I had this thing here cranked all the way up the fin, which that's really your temperature setting. You know, the higher you have this thing slid up the fin, the colder it gets in here. And I had it cranked because with, you know, the fridge the way it was before, I had it cranked. I also had it on cold setting 3. Right now it's on 2. But I had this really weird issue where every time I ran the generator, and right now it's on auto, so every time the generator kicked on, it would go to AC power. And then when I shut the generator off, it would switch back to gas. That's just what I have it set on. You can switch it to AC only, you can switch it to gas only, or you can have it where I have it on auto, where it will switch back and forth depending on what you're using. And the last time I was running the generator and I had shut it off, when it made the switch from AC to gas, the cold setting switched from 2 to 5 automatically on its own, which was really strange. So I think that happened a few times before, which is why the fridge was extra cold and froze everything. But now, I mean, I watched it do it when I turned the remote for the generator off. I watched it switch from 2 to 5. And I don't know why it did that. If anybody knows, let me know. But I've been watching it, and lately it hasn't been doing that. It's just been staying on 2 when I cut the generator off. I mean, to remedy that, I could either do what I'm doing and just keep an eye on it, or I can just turn it to straight gas, so that when I turn on the generator, it's not going to try to switch to AC power. It's just going to stay on propane. But yeah, that's my fridge drama. I was pretty worried. Everything in here froze up solid. It wasn't fun. But everything's good now. I think I have it under control. It's been good for the last few days. I've been testing it out. And now it's back to normal again. Thank God. So cheers to a working fridge. I'm so glad to have all that squared away.